CBD. Right. Okay. How do I get this out again? Pop out chat. Okay. We are a goo. Goo goo goo. Signal is excellent. About time. About time. Fed up with the signal we've been having here. Let's put this in the map before people start going mad. Can everyone hear me? Hi Cat, can you hear me? Sound okay? Volume okay? Let me move this microphone closer. Move this microphone, but not too close, because for some reason sometimes they scream at each other. And then I'm sat here like, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Ooh. Let's just check issues with signal. Have you got issues with signal? Or oh, you've have you done O'Hara Adoran, please? Hey man, love your streams. Thanks James, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. I hope I see your Driscoll. Hope you've been and seen the Driscoll TikTok. County O'Mara Spence. That's a plaid. That's probably a name that came across it. Oh, me. No, according to my signals, great. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy it. A long form video will eventually appear on YouTube. I'm working through the O'Shea's at the minute, but we'll get the. Oh, you thought? No, I'm late tonight because my sister arrived from New Zealand. So I was spending time with her and her husband. And we kind of got chatting. I haven't seen her for 4 years, so I kind of got distracted. Okay, right. Let's get stuck in because everyone's getting into it. Yeah. So right. Okay. Right. I'll catch up with some of these names because I've been chatting and everyone's just straight in there. Typical. Nobody asks how am I. You know, what's my day been like? No. Just give me the information. Anyway, we'll go for it. So the first one was Doran, wasn't it? So Dorans are originally from Leish. And they were hereditary Brehons, so lawmakers, lawgivers, judges, lawyers, academics, are centered around. But if we primarily focus it around sort of law, primarily in Leinster, they sort of operated within the Kingdom of Leinster. So that was the Dorans. And they're primarily found in what is now modern day Laois. Hang on, right, let's go back to the top here. Proud O'Driscoll Clan, and so you should be. Great history, the O'Driscolls. I can't wait to do. I've done all the research and I've done the recording for the long form video. I just need to do the editing side of it. The recording's the easiest side, that's the problem. Have you done O'Hara? I haven't done anything in short form for O'Hara. At the minute, guys, I haven't been recording the last sort of week and a half because I've been working with a TikTok coach trying to improve my content. So because I'm a millennial and I'm not as savvy. I'm old. I'm in my 30s now, so I need some just pointers. But yeah, anyway, the O'Haras there's two branches of O'Haras. So you have the O'Haras of Sligo. They're related to the O'Garas. They are, I believe, part of the Efiek or Mui, which is just for context for anyone that's sort of like not quite aware of some of the tribal names that live in certain areas. Can you all see that? I need to maybe push my TikTok. So this is the Efiek or Mui. which is the O'Dowds are the primarily the more senior line of it, as can be seen here. But the O'Haras are part of them. There is an O'Hara from Derry, Antrim, that sort of area, in Ulster. Their traditional narrative is that they are actually related to the Sligo O'Haras, but I have been unable to confirm that. A lot of Irish families, especially when we in the 16th century, where families lost their Irish names and then became, and then in the 18th, 19th century, when we tried to sort of re-Gaelicize ourselves, a lot of families just assumed that, they just like merged their history onto others, bigger families. So you have O'Byrnes in Connacht, or O'Ryans in Connacht associating themselves with the bigger Tipperary O'Ryans, or even the Leinster O'Byrnes, but actually they were never related. The best example of this is actually an O'Byrne family from Carlingford. They claim in their history that they were soldiers hired by Hugh O'Neill in the 9 Years' War against the Tudor conquest of Ireland, and then they settled in Louth. But DNA analysis has disproven this, and it would almost make sense, since there was a famous battle in Carlingford during the 9 Years' War. You would think that maybe some of the soldiers stayed behind, wounded or whatever, and set up shop. But no, it doesn't seem likely. So yeah, it's so you've just got to be careful with these traditional stories, but they go way back. We have families from Antrim claiming to be O'Neills from the 8th, 9th century, and they weren't. So at least you're not a Gen Xer. Well, it's true. I mean, I meant to say how are you before. It's okay, everyone. Doherty, before they came over, it was O'Doherty. Yeah, they're from Inishowen. They're related to the O'Neills through the tribal group called the Kenaloan, or clan group, whatever language you want to use to explain that. But the wider kin group was the Kenaloan, and the O'Dohertys were a branch of them, and they were lords of Inishowen. So yes, O'Dohertys I have a full video of them on my YouTube, actually. I've just done Doran, literally just done Doran. There you go, from Laois. They were Brehons or lawyers, and oh my God, O'Hara and Doran, literally straight after I've just spoke about them. My surname is Irish, but I'm having trouble finding what part. Well, if I see it pop up, I'll let you know. Nobody has ever said where Nugent comes from. Nugent comes from primarily Westmeath, and it's an English or Norman name. They came across with from England. I can't remember if they were with the Norman invasion. I think they were, because they were part of the Old English, and they sided more with the Gaelic Irish in the later conflicts. So yeah, Westmeath, Nugent. Kearney, please. Kearney is like son of the Kern. It's found in a lot of places in Ireland and Scotland. So the problem with Kearney is there's a lot of variations of it. I do believe they are earners as well, so hereditary landholders in Fermanagh and Down and Donegal. So you have branches in County Down, no, that's Armagh, County Down, Monaghan, Fermanagh and Donegal, where branches of the family were and Newton Ards, well, Upper Ards, sorry, that is the area in County Down. So they were, like I said, they were hereditary landholders within the church lands, Primarily, there are a lot of variations of Kearney and a lot of branches unrelated. The only one that I'm fully aware of the history of is the one related to the O'Hanlons. So they're a branch of they're not a branch of the O'Hanlons, but they're related through the E Nile lane. Not to be confused with the E Neil, who were the O'Neills. Um, so yeah, there's a branch of them that are related to the O'Hanlons, but there are a lot more branches. And like I say, it came across from Scotland too, so you can get Scottish ones um, as well. So it's they're yeah. Uh, McHugh, I have loads of videos on the McHughes. Not loads of. I have a video on the McHughes, and I have loads of them sort of scattered on here. Uh, it's a variation McHugh, Mc oh no, like McGee. It's it's Irish. There's Irish and Welsh branches of the name. Primarily, most of them are Irish, but I would say check out the video because there's a lot of branches, but they primarily follow along the borders of Ulster and Connacht. That's where the line, all the multiple lines sort of exist. Um, in in Ireland. Donnelly, yeah, Donnelly is there's a lot of branches of Donnellys in Ireland. So you have Donnellys of Inishowen. They were they were chiefs of Ferdruma. Hang on, we'll put these on here actually. Donnelly. Nope, I don't know why it's come up. Oh, it's because obviously the last name I wrote was Pink. So yeah, you get a branch in. Not all these names are in exact locations, everyone, just because of spacing. So you'll have to forgive me on that one. But yeah, there's the Donnellys of Inishowen. And I'm not sure if they were the branch that are marshals. A branch were also marshals for the O'Neills as well, so would be leading their troops in battle and you know, quite an important hereditary job, as it were. And there was also a Donnelly that was one of the earls that flight, the famous event known as the Flight of the Earls. He I can't remember his first name, but there was a Donnelly that was on that ship, on the boat that they headed to Spain to try and get Spanish support after we lost I was there after the Gaels had lost the Tudor conquest of Ireland campaign, the 9 Years' War. Yeah, they're quite important. Had some very important parts in Irish history. Hi Shane, how are we doing? You're very welcome, Rachel. Can you do O'Connor? Yeah, O'Connor's one that we sort of cover most nights, and I understand why. It's one of the most common surnames in Ireland. I'll go through the same rotation that I normally do, just so you can get an idea. Yeah, I can do Campbell as well. Campbell's Irish and Scottish. Two unrelated families. Well, technically three. But the O'Connors are these three here. So this branch here, this branch here, and this branch here are part of the E Bruin, which is this tribal group here. And you have the O'Connor Row, O'Connor Don, and the O'Connor Sligo, and they're all related. They're part of the same branch. They descend from I believe a brother or uncle of the Rory O'Conquer, no, Cruaher, sorry, Rory O'Cruaher, who's the High King of Ireland, the O'Connor High King of Ireland. Then you have the O'Connors of Clare, who are unrelated. These families are not related to each other. but they are there. Then you have the O'Connor of the O'Connor Kerrys. I have a video on them if you want to learn a bit about a branch of the O'Connors. They're from the Carberry tribal group. They have a really interesting history. Well, all families do, but you get my point. Then you have the O'Connor Feelies, who are another unrelated group. A lot of these ones, like the O'Connor Feely, the O'Connor Kerrys, they dropped the second part of their surnames, obviously, later on. You have the O'Connors of Armagh and Tyrone, who again, separate branch. And then you have, last but not least, the O'Connors of Derry, who were part of the Cianocta tribal group, who would end up losing their lands to the O'Keans. So as you can see, O'Connor makes its rounds in Irish history. Hang on. Just can't even see Fitzgerald on your map. You can't see Fitzgerald on the map? Can you not see it? I'll give you a second. O'Connor's from Downpatrick. Yeah, more than likely you would be part of the if I was to hazard a guess, you would be part of the Armagh O'Connors. Maybe. Obviously there are going to be a lot of families that are unattested in the annals and the records. All we know are the most famous ones. But as you can see, there was a branch not too far from, and obviously Downpatrick is down where this Savage is. So it's not a far push to get across. Hang on, I need to scroll up. Let's just see if I can get some of these older names that people asked for earlier. I didn't realise how many people had commented though, since Fitzsimmons is a Norman name, and can be found in a lot of places in Ulster, but primarily on the eastern side. You normally find the Fitzsimmonses sort of settle on the east coast of Ulster, but they came across with the Normans. So yeah, they're I don't know if they I think they came across in 1172 though, not in the initial invasion of Ireland. Hayden tends to come from Leinster, but I'm pretty sure it's a variation of a couple of names. So you sort of find Hayden in Leinster I haven't fully researched that name. I just know its location because they're of their association with Leinster. But oh, my Norton. But yeah, they're associated with Leinster. Monaghan is a name found in Roscommon. They are related to the O'Maddens. Here you go. Not Roscommon, Galway, Roscommon area. They are part of the wider tribal group of the Ivina. So this group here. Let's go back to my map. For that, Barry, yeah, Barry has 3 points. Norman name. So the Barrys were a Norman family that came across in 1169. They were quite important in that invasion, quite high up in it, in their involvement with Strongbow's forces. They would settle primarily in around Cork, but they actually moved into an area where there was a family with a very similar phonetic sounding name to Barry, the O'Barras, and a lot of them anglicised their name to Barry, so they became Barry. There's also the same thing happened up here in Donegal. There are Barrys up here who are of Irish descent. I thought the Fitzgeralds would have been in green. Shows how little I know. Yeah, they're a Norman family. They were actually second. Their nephew was second in command in the Norman invasion of Ireland. Just to give you an understanding, red is Norman. Yeah, their nephew was the second in command to Strongbow's forces in the 1169 invasion of Ireland, Cambro invasion of Ireland. So, and then they would split off into two very famous branches, the Fitzgerald line and the Desmond line. The Desmond line and Fitzgeralds would become very Gaelicized. They would, they became patrons of the Gaelic arts. In fact, the famous term, if anyone's ever heard the famous term becoming more Irish than the Irish themselves, it actually refers to the Fitzgeralds of Desmond, who would own land sort of the whole way around here. They would lose their power though in two famous Fitzgerald rebellions against the English, and they would sort of lose a lot of their power from that. Then you have the Kildare branch, who tended to lean more towards the England, and tended to support England. So yeah, they can be found there. So MacDade is a up here, MacDavids, MacDades, they were very closely aligned and related to and loyal to and very important to the O'Dohertys. So, but yeah, MacDade, MacDavid, found traditionally from Inishowen. Why are the Lagan and the Cruithne included as Gaels when they are not Gaels? Because they're speaking Gaelic. They're so both in Irish history. Obviously, we had a lot of migrations that came into Ireland around the same time. We had supposedly, let's just argument, the proto Gaels that would arrive from the south, and then you had a load. This is in the Iron Age. This is sort of early Iron Age, so you're sort of saying about 600, 500 BC ish, and you have at the same time you have proto-Brythonic groups coming in from the north, and these are sort of not in straight lines. By the way, there are pockets everywhere, obviously, and they're all over. So what happens is that these groups are coming in. These societies are coming in, and they're made up of lots of little subgroups as well. They're not all homogenous. They're not all the same people. They have different gods. They have different, all these sort of things. So they're all coming in, and they converge on Ireland, and they settle in. And then very quickly, the Gaelic language becomes the dominant language on the island, and so the Cruithne you're speaking about in Antrim, parts of Antrim, they would be they would start adopting. So what they've done is originally the Dal Fiatach are the group here, who are, let's say, a Gaelic group for all intensive purposes. They're the Ullid, and then the Brythonic group, the Cruithne, decide to start referring to themselves as the Ullid. So the Dal Fiatach are then started referring to themselves in the Annals as the true Ullid. And then later on, after the Cruithne tribes start editing their genealogies, saying no, we're Gaels, we're related to the Kenaloan, and they start changing their genealogies. And then they start referring to themselves as the true Ullid, and it gets all a bit complicated. But for simple sake, very quickly, all these people, these Cruithne, these the Lagan, the Connaughter, all these sort of groups, they're indistinguishable from each other. They're speaking the same language, they're dressing the same, they're worshipping the same things. You cannot dig up a Cruithne settlement and tell it's a Cruithne settlement from any, let's inverted commas, Gaelic settlement. So it's they're all there's no way to differentiate between any of the groups, and that's what I'm saying. So whenever people say ethnicity matters, well, they're ethnically the same anyway. They all come from the same Bronze Age groups like the Bell Beakers, and these are just multiple migrations of the same people, but later. It's their behavior and genetics are different. Not really. We all descend from the same sort of group of people from the Bronze Age. So Just because these groups are the proto Gaels are coming from Brittany into and a lot of them are coming through England first as well, and then up through Scotland, and then coming through Ireland. Um, um, it's you kind of get a wee bit uh, gets a wee bit weird when you start saying like they're ethnically different. I mean, society is what makes them different, in how they bury their dead, what structures they build, how their inheritance structures, their leadership structures. These are what makes them really different. But genetically, they're the same people. That's why we have some problems with doing DNA, and that's why we cluster them all together as Belbeca people. Sorry, I took my jumper off at the same time. There's Belbeca people, and even though they're not all that, they're not. They're not homogenous. Homogenous terms. There was probably hundreds of little groups that came across and converged together to create the Cruithne. And the same with the Gaels. These traditional narratives of Brogan and his 9 sons coming across from Spain as the first Gael are stories. They're just stories, and there's very little, um, you know, fact in them. Um, I have observed this. How have you observed it? The Cruithne and the Gaels do not exist anymore. They haven't existed for a very long time. Okay, let's just get some names in. O'Hanlons are from Armagh, actually from a wee place called Tandragee, and the castle that's been built on top of their castle is actually a crisp factory. Best crisps in the world, by the way, Tito crisps. They do not, man of clay. It's nonsensical. Do not. You're actually talking nonsense. Campbell. There's Scottish and Irish branches of Campbell's. So we obviously have the most famous branch of Campbell's, which are the Argyll family, and they obviously come to prominence with their allegiances to Robert the Bruce, and yada yada yada. The whole story with that. They always seem to be on the right side of history, except for one slight period where they sided against, Cromwell. But by all intents and purposes, they are, are probably the most successful family in Scottish history. But then we have the groups like the MacCowells, who are after the plantations of Ulster, which kind of started around 1509. The plantations of Ireland, they start to adopt the name Campbell, them and many others. So you kind of get these Irish branches of the Cruithne lived in East Galway, the Manions and the Kellys. There's a saying, where there's Kellys, there's trouble. I would believe many families, McGregors have some origins, the O'Neills have some origins, some wee mottos like that too. The examples are more sort of interesting, man of clay, but I've said all I'll say on the matter tonight. Joyce is one of the 14 tribes of Galway. They actually, this part of Galway was known as Joyce County, or Joyce Country, but they were one of the important mercantile families that ruled Tipperary. So they were heavily involved in the trading life, the political life of the Galway city. So Campbell's location on this map, please. Yeah, sure, no worries. Let's see if I was trying to figure out a way to do this where I could just show one family at a time. I don't think it's going to work. I need to figure it out so that I can Is that do that? No, no, it didn't work. Anyway, yeah. So primarily in South Down is where the South Tyrone, sorry, is where they're associated with, and then obviously you have the Scottish branch coming across from Argyll. If you want to actually, you can. I have a map of the plantations of Ulster. Here you go. Let me scroll this out a wee bit, so you can sort of see the spots in which the in Argyll and Campbellstown, there you go. You see all these families, groups, these wee spots where individuals are coming across into Ulster during the plantation. So yeah. How do I get this back? I need to figure this map out. Right. I'm hoping that once I've got all the names, I can figure out a way to so I can bring the name up and people can just sort of see it in future. You know, it'll just highlight that name and that location rather than you having to sift through all those things. Moderator power trip here. Moderator has my full backing, man. Clay. My moderators have been vetted. They've been here for a very long time. They know how to run the channel. So I don't know what's happening over on that chat, but if my moderators are pulling you up about it, it's probably best to listen to them. Yeah, so sorry. Let's go back to the name chat, shall we? I tell you, I get so distracted by so many wee things here. Is there any Campbells from the south? Yes. So although in the south, they are more anglicised to sort of Caulfield and the names that were associated with the south. Like the McCallanians. So here you would find anywhere where you find the McCallanian surname would be Caulfield or Campbell. They kind of went two ways with anglicisation of their name. So you get McCallanian that gets anglicised to Campbell. So yeah, that's their names in the south. I wonder if there's anything similar in Scotland. Anything? This map. This map is my own creation. In a it's a work in progress. It's very rough. I will put it into a. I will put it into a neater format. My hope is to actually eventually turn this map into a website where people can, which is why each link is sort of but you can click each link, and then hopefully that will eventually give you a brief history and show you all the points for it. Is the dream. So that's the plan. I've already done the Fitzgeralds. They are a Norman family, a Cambro Norman family. Hang on, I've messed up my zoom now. Pushing up. There we go. A Cambro Norman family that broke into two. I have lots of talks, and so does Irish Medieval History. The channel, my sister channel, Irish Medieval History, has loads of talks on the Fitzgeralds. If you want to know some more. Duffy's. Again, Duffy has multiple variations and branches. Probably the most sort of famous branch, I suppose, although it's hard to, when they're sort of scattered all over Ireland, you can find them in Roscommon and Galway. But like I say, there are a lot of branches of Duffy. You get Duffys in Armagh as well. And then you also have Duff, which is a Scottish name, but it's also got Irish names as well. So there's a lot of them. Excuse me. So yeah. There's a lot of places. So hang on, I think, and they're also earners as well for in Donegal. So find a lot of places in Ulster, Roscommon, Galway. McConnell, O'Connell, McConnell is two different variations, but they can be used interchangeable. The most famous branch is from Kerry, obviously. The only problem you have Scottish McConnells as well that came across with the plantations of Ulster, and then you obviously have the D in Irish or Gaelic was originally spelled with a C, so you have the older translations of the modern names of MacDonald, O'Donnell, so you can have a lot of variations. My last name is so I've seen where I'm from. That's fantastic. I have an O'Shea video on my TikToks if you want to learn more about the O'Shea surname. O'Day, probably O'D, O'D or O'Day, famously from Clare is the most famous branch of that name. I have a full video on my YouTube about the battle at Dyser O'D, a very famous medieval battle that they were involved in. So if you're an O'Day or an O'D, feel free to check that out. And any families from Clare would be involved in that, to be fair. Collins is primarily found from Limerick, but in the 14th century, a lot of them, due to the O'Briens and the Fitzgeralds sort of squeezing them, they're part of the tribal group called the Ecolin Gavra. They moved down to Cork, just outside Cork. Kavanagh, you've got a few branches, but primarily Leinster is the most famous branch, although not the only branch. You have the Kavanaghs, who are a branch of the MacMurroghs, through Dermot MacMurrough, King of Leinster's son Kavanagh. They are part of the older tribal group called the Kenshillog. But you also have the Kavanaghs up here. Don't let the spelling fool you with a C and a K. I just use different variations, but they're all interchangeable. You can kind of have... Talbot is a English name. It comes from Shropshire, but primarily would settle in Donegal, and they're very famously on the Irish Peninsula. In fact, there's a wee town here called Ballyhalbert, not far from me. And that was originally Ballytalbot, but obviously corruption of the name over time has turned it into Ballyhalbert. So yeah, you get a but they're an English name from Shropshire. The surname is very popular in Shropshire in England to this day. So yeah, Hanrahan were chiefs of Corky, actually, in Westmeath. We'll put them on the map, actually, because I haven't got very many names in Westmeath. So let's get Hanrahan on the map. McDermott has a few branches. It obviously comes from Dermot, so there's a lot of Dermot, was quite a common name in Ireland. The most famous branch, and I'm sure a lot of people will see that castle on the wee island on the loch, and it's beautiful, and that's Moylurg. The McDermotts of Moylurg. They're the most famous, and they were part of the Silmurdy tribal group. So this group here, which was a branch of the E. Bruin tribal group. So they're related to the likes of the O'Connors. But you also have other families like the one from Donegal, who are related to the O'Neills. So yeah, McKnight is a variation of McNaughton. So you have Nortons. There's two sort of it comes out in Norton or Norton. Um, Primarily, the McNaughtons are Scottish um, from this branch. I know this. Hang on, let's just get this. We'll put them on here. Let's get them away. This first branch we'll get on here. McNaughton. So you have the Scottish, and they primarily settled in Antrim, but you also have the Nortons, who are a different family, but the name is interchangeable, and they're a native Irish one, and a lot of times both those names were sort of anglicised. The McNaughton variation of the name was anglicised to McKnight. There is a possibility as well that you are just the son of, not you literally, but your descendant was just the son of a knight. But probably unlikely in the sense of considering the Gaels were calling their knights Ridra or Ridri. So you would be McRidra, not McKnight. So unless a Scottish branch exists, but 90% of McKnights come from the McNaughtons. And like I say, most McNaughtons are Scottish. But the variation here, let's just get them. Why is it not? Oh, sorry. Put them. I'm trying to find a space for them. Put them over here. So again, very many variations of that name, but that's an anglicised version of it, and that's a sort of Gaelicised version of it. But they're both were spelling the name the same way. So is Vaughan Welsh or Irish? It's both actually, and actually probably could be classed as Scottish too. Although the name Vaughan is Welsh. The McMahons had a branch of Vaughans. So a branch of the McMahons anglicised their name to Vaughan. How have you spelled that so I can put it in there? Vaugha. There you go. So yeah, you get a bunch of McMahons that are Vaughans, but you also have the Welsh version of it too. So I suppose we put them in. I don't know if they came across the Norman invasion, but I suppose we can put them in as other. Maybe we'll put them in as other. We'll put them in Leinster because that's primarily where most of the Welsh, well, not in Kerry, but we'll just so I can explain to people later. Okay. Man of Clay, you just back to cause trouble. Welsh is a Welsh name. It's a name given to not a Welsh name, but a name given to the Welsh settlers. There are no known Irish families that adopted the name Welsh. It can be found all the way from Leinster to Kerry, but it's a name attributed to Welsh people, Welsh settlers, and you'd have a hard time understanding when your sort of Welsh ancestors came across, because the original Welsh colonies with the Cambro-Norman invasion actually failed, and a lot of them returned back to Wales, but not all of them obviously, but most of them returned back to Wales. And then you would have Welsh soldiers that would be part of every invading army right up until Cromwell, and you know, which would have Welsh troops, and obviously a lot of Cromwell's army was paid for with land from Ireland. So you're going to have these multiple waves of Welshes arriving into Ireland. Most Welsh archers came from Difford, the kingdom. Not so. Obviously, like I say, the first actual Welsh colonies of Ireland that came with the Cambro-Norman invasion, they actually failed, most of them. So you find a lot of them came back. People call Hughes and Hayes. Some of them were Hughes Hayes, but a lot of Irish were adopting the Hughes and Hayes surname as well. And actually more Irish were adopting it than Welsh settlers were arriving with it. So you find that most people with the Hughes and Hayes surname are actually of Irish origin, or not from Wales. When I say Irish origin, that's a very loose term, but just were, you know, from older families that had settled in Ireland before the Welsh started arriving into into Ireland. So Keys is a where would the Tudor family be? Tudor is the actually, believe it or not, not going to be from the Tudors of the Royal House Tudor, but the Royal House of Tudor were from a Welsh family, the Ap Tudor, and I believe they're from an area just outside of the Anglesey area of Wales, the north west, near that massive island. It is Anglesey, that's not massive island, isn't it? So they're from that area, and also a lot of them adopted the surname Griffin as well, the Ap Tudors. So yeah, it's not my channel, Michael, but it's my co-worker, person I work with on most of my projects, and it's Irish medieval history. But he's one of my best friends, so ask away. There you go. So, and check that channel out. Fitzpatrick does you're very welcome, Michael. Any questions? I won't see them on that channel, so feel free to put them on mine. But if you ask Philip on that channel as well, we speak to each other twice a week. So if he doesn't know the answer, he'll ask me, and you know we'll let you know. Yes. So as we were saying, who are we asking about before I started talking about Irish medieval history? Yeah, Gordon tends to come across with obviously the plantations. I'm not aware. I'm trying to think if there's a branch of Gordon's. I'm not aware of the Gordon name becoming Gaelicized in any way, or Irish families adopting it. I know some of them adopted Graham, but obviously the Gordons were a Norman family originally anyway, so it's settled in Scotland. I'm going to be up all night watching your videos. Oh no, I guarantee they'll put you to sleep, Michael. McCallum is Irish. There's Irish and Scottish branches of McCallum. So again, you're gonna have mostly McCallum Scottish. So I would say like there's a more potential you're going to be Scottish than Irish. Clark from Northern Ireland, yeah. If you're from Northern Ireland, chances are, depending where you are, can have a big impact. You get a lot of Clarks in the around the Irish Peninsula. You get a lot of, which is the Irish Peninsula is a great example because although you have a lot of plantations, families from Scotland coming into the Irish Peninsula, you obviously still remain small pockets of Gaelic families, and then you obviously have the Norman families like the Savages that are owning land. So it's hard to tell whether these Clarks are from the O'Clearys. So you have the O'Clearys here, who anglicised their name to Clark eventually, but it's unlikely that every Clark in Ireland is related to them. Clark was a very common name in England and Scotland. There's a myth that if it's spelt with an E at the end of it, and that can interpret which sort of line you come from, but it's not true. It's the same way with Smith, and they say if it's spelled with a Y or an I, that it denotes where you come from, but that's not an accurate marker to use to denote your heritage. Because standardization of the English language didn't happen until the 19th century. So, but yeah, primarily most would Irish people who have the surname Clark would associate themselves with the O'Clearys. But obviously, like I say, there's a lot of plantation from England and Scotland happening that would also have a huge impact on that. So, would you know about Merthyr? Although I know there's a lot of branches, I'm only really aware of the Sligo branch of Merthyrs off the top of my head. I don't know all the branches of Merthyr. To know them all, because I know Merthyr was quite a very common surname. There's famous kings in like the Clan Kelly in Fermanagh and stuff. They had Merthyrs in their genealogy. So finding all the branches is something that I will be working on very soon, actually, but it's not something that I'm 100% on. But I will be working on it very soon, because you get the I think there's O'Merthyrs in Meath too. If I'm shooting from a recent bit of research that I did, I think I saw O'Merthyrs in Meath as well. You can sort of see the locations that they're sort of happening, but like I say, Merthyrs are one of the names I will be researching very soon. O'Brien has multiple origin points in Ireland, purely because so you have probably the most famous. Most people will associate their heritage to Brian Boru, Emperor of the Gael, Emperor Scotorum, High King of Ireland, if you want to use that term, since he basically usurped Mel Shocknall. Most would associate with that, although not all O'Briens. Brian is a very common, not very common, but is an English surname. We also have the O'Briens coming across with the Normans, and we also have the Breen family. The name became very interchangeable with the Breen family, so a lot of Breens became O'Briens, Bryans. So you will find that some families may associate themselves with the O'Briens of Clare, but actually are maybe the O'Briens from Meath and other locations, and that's because it more similar. The Breen is actually a more similar phonetic sounding to the original name. And then you have the Mackie Breens up here, who are a branch of the O'Briens. So you have Mac Bryan, Mac Breen. O'Neill, please. Yeah, there's two famous O'Neill branches, shall we say. You have the O'Neills of Ulster, who are probably the most famous O'Neills in history, and they're probably one of the most famous families in Irish history. But and they would branch off. Their traditional narrative is they descend from Nal Noglach, and that they were part of the Kinloan, and they, obviously we know the Kinloan expands out of Inishowen in the 7th century, pushing out the Archela kingdoms, setting up primarily in Tyrone, and then from there you obviously get the Clandy-Boy family, you get the Fuse, you get a few other branches, all the way up to Belfast, and they're the most famous O'Neills. But you also have the O'Neills of the Burn in Clare, and they're not related. Although one story does claim they are a branch of it, another claims that they're part of the Dalcath, so they're related to the O'Briens. But it's I will be researching that very soon, but it's unlikely they're part of the Ulster branch. Yeah, and then you obviously have the MacNeils that sometimes, when they came across the Ulster, it's very possible that branches would adopt the O later on, but by and large most will be associated with these ones. O'Higgins, O'Higgins is an interesting one actually. It gets associated with the Vikings because I believe in basic, a basic translation, rough translation is sort of, son of the Viking. Obviously, the Norsemen weren't the only people to go Viking, so a lot of Irish were in Viking. We can see that in their interactions with each other. They're trading, they're intermarrying with each other's families, they're fostering each other's children, and we can see that even if you take on the you look at Iceland and its genetic makeup, and obviously they have I think the traditional story is that all the Icelanders, they come from Viking male fathers and Irish mothers, but geneticists have disproven that there are Irish male lines as well, and we can see that in the traditional narrative in Summarley, who was the famous progenitor of the MacDonalds, the McDowells, the McRorys. A lot of because it became quite popular to legitimize yourself and to be a king in Scotland, so King of the Isles, King of Moray, you had to sort of almost claim this, you had to claim like an ancient Irish lineage, and so a lot of families would mess with their genealogies to claim this Irish lineage, and we know that Summarley had Irish lineage, but it was on his mother's side, not on his father's side. His father was paternally of Norse extract. So yeah, you do get this sort of interchanging of people and ideas, and so Higgins has been proven to have Norse lines, but it also has Irish lines as well, and they make up the vast majority of the Higgins. So and Higgins can be found primarily in Sligo and in Meath, just to give you the location as well. Vaughan is a Welsh name. It is a Welsh name, but it was also adopted by the Irish as well. These aren't where the words come from. These are where branches of the family. So Kelly is an anglicization. It's not that's not how you spell Kelly in Irish. These aren't where they come from. These are where branches of the names are being adopted by families. So if you are a Vaughan and the individual wants to know, I'm a Vaughan, am I of Welsh origin? Well, that's what I answer. There's a possibility that you are, but there's a possibility you can be Irish, because Irish people were adopting the name. Coil is an interesting one, because it can also you can be a branch of the Doyles. You can be it gets adopted by a lot of families in Ireland. so it's one of these ones that's often used as a nickname as well, and it gets broken into. Um, you've got obviously the most famous line is the followers um, of what's the saying? What's the saying? Oh, it's gonna annoy me. Famously, it's like um, Comgall, I think it was. I can't. That's not even the right pronunciation. Anyway, but yeah, it's like the follower of a saint. Is the most famous anglicization of that name. Um, but then, like I say, it's interchangeable with Doyle. It's interchangeable with Dowell. It's interchangeable with a lot of Irish names. So it's one of these ones that has origin points everywhere. You've got to remember, like I say, that if you see a C in front of a name, like, or a D in front of a name, there's a possibility it was a D at one stage, because in Old Irish, the C, the D, the modern D was a C. Oh, Column Kill, thank you, Man of Clay, Column Kill. I could not think of me. The life of me could think of it. That is the problem with having so many. So yeah, so I'll just give you like I say. So if you have this, Coyle can come from the McCools, the Doyles, the McDougals, the McDowells, the Coles. All those names get anglicized to Coyle. Have got anglicizations to Coyle. So wherever you see those names, you'll see Coyle. I know it doesn't really help. You're sort of sitting there going, right, so my name could be anywhere in Ireland, but it's just one of those things, unfortunately. Oh, my chat just went down. Why did that crash? Oh, TikTok, do you do an inactivity? Did I miss the beep noise? Did I? Let's go back. I wonder what happened there. Let's not get told off by TikTok for it. TikTok's so annoying. Interesting. I studied Irish history. I knew a vague meaning, but I didn't know it could branch so wide. Yeah, it's just a lot of people. There's a lot of misunderstandings that Irish surnames are lineal, and that it's literally just a straight line from one person to the next. In the idea of like, oh well, I must be all O'Briens are descended from Brian Boru. But that's not how the language works. It's not how the history works. And even then how I'm explaining it and how I sort of expand on the branches of that, there are always going to be outliers too to the original points that I'm presenting. So I could give you all the points, and I could go, all right, here's all the Doyles, and here's all the McDougals, and here's all the McDowells, and here's all the McCools, and point you all out, and then it just turns out that actually you are from a Coyle, a small family, from Galway, who just sort of never really appeared in any, not attested in any paperwork, or so it's and I have people that come up to me and sort of say, this is the story of my family, and sometimes I have to take it with a pinch of salt, and other times I sort of say that's quite possible. It sounds quite likely. So yeah, it's sorry about that, TikTok. I have no idea why that crashed. I think it's TikTok tells you after an hour of streaming that you have to do a wee test to prove you're still active. I don't know why it does that whenever it can just hear you and see your screens moving, but sure, we are but pawns in their game. So yeah. We'll do what they're we'll do what they say. Um, at the end of the day, can't argue against them, right? But that's all it's set up again. That's all of it set up again. I was told Mullins is Irish. Is that true? Yeah, I mean, there's Irish branches of Mullins. It becomes Mellon, it's Moylan, it's Mullane. There's a lot of Malin. There's a lot of variations of the name. I believe the Mellons are from Westmeath. Um, so, yeah, it's got a very common Irish variations of the name. Yes, my family are from Ulster. Well, I'll tell you right now, there's a load of Doyles around Banbridge, because that's my Doyles. We're Doyles from Banbridge. So I imagine there's some Coils around there. I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, sorry. We were talking about Mullen. So yeah, it does come from. There's obviously like several distinct families. Probably the most famous one though is the Mullins of who are a branch of the O'Keans. They're probably the most famous variation of the name. The McReynolds are from Leitrim. Primarily, from McRagnall. They are part of the Camuckna tribal group. I believe the Camuckna Rian. They may be actually related to the likes of the O'Rourke's and the O'Reillys if we knew the O'Rourke's history. The O'Rourke's did such a good job of claiming Bruin heritage to the Bruin tribe. They eradicated all history of their earlier association with any tribal group. We actually don't know for certain who they're related to, but it's quite possibly that they are related to the likes of the McReynolds. But yeah, they're from Leitrim. O'Madden are part of the Ivina, primarily found in Monaghan. I had told someone, I don't know if anyone's in here before, I thought they were a hereditary physician family, but they're not a hereditary physician family. They just had a very famous physician in the family in the 17th and 18th century. I wrote that down incorrectly and had remembered it as they were a physician family, but they're not. But they are related to the likes of the O'Kellys. The O'Rourke's are more likely related to the Owenocta. We just don't know. We don't know who they're related to. They come from Leitrim, so it more than likely says Camuckna. And the Maguires aren't Owenocta. The Maguires are Archelan. They're from Archela. O'Kennedy represent. O'Kennedy has multiple branches, Scottish and Irish. The Scottish branch, obviously, I believe they claim a Brythonic origin, quite an old origin. We claim to have one of the oldest sort of surnames in Scotland. But obviously they've, like the Campbells, they've come from Brythonic heritage and then have become Gaelicised over time, and then they've adopted a Gaelicised name, and then obviously the rest is Scottish history. But they come across to Ireland during the plantations. But we also have O'Kennedys in Fermanagh, and we have O'Kennedys in County Clare. The O'Kennedys of County Clare claim descent, I want to say from Kennetig, who was Brian Boru's father, but I'm not entirely sure. It could be from another family member. Anyway, they claim to be of the Dalcash tribal group, and then I believe the O'Kennedys of Fermanagh are associated with the Maguires. The Maguires were not actually Erhelen, that was a fabricated lineage. Well, when I studied the Maguires, I do actually have two books that arrived for the Maguires last month. So I look forward to reading them and finding that out. It'd be very interesting if that's true. But I'm just saying, in their traditional narrative, they link themselves to the Erhelen tribes. The Dalcash based their identity on it. Also, yeah, a lot of families did. In fact, you could argue every family, apart from the Dalfiatic, are the only ones that seem to have never changed their origin. So they are the only family that sort of maintained their native native roots. And just for anyone that's wondering who the Dalfiatic are, they're primarily led by the Magdan Levies. They're the only one that the true Ullid who fought against the Cruthni taking their title. But yeah, they're the only ones that seem to have no fabrication at all, because they from a very early period they're defending their sort of native title, whereas obviously a lot of families are they're trying to assert themselves into genealogies. Why is my TikTok crashing? Your knowledgeable thought of starting your own channel. I wouldn't say that that's an unfair statement, Manaclay. It's a genuine question, just like yours have been. What website is that? It's not a website. It's my it's Photoshop. It may eventually go onto a website. McLaughlin has multiple origin points, Scottish and Irish branches. We have the McLaughlins, who are from, I believe, Argyll, and they, in their traditional narrative, they claim Irish descent. Like a lot of families, although there are Scottish families from Scotland who are of, Gaelic native Irish descent. McLaughlins may not be one of them, but like I say, that's the traditional story. But they would come across to Ireland with the plantations, and they would actually move into an area where there was already McLaughlins, who were the one of the lines who were related to the O'Neills from the Kenalowan. But you find that they could even be Scottish, because Lachlan, they could even be Viking, shall we say, because Lachlan was another name for, we believe it was another name for Norway, or it could actually be another name just for Scotland, actually, because the early Irish annals say the land of Lachlan, which is like the land of many lakes. But we actually don't know if they're referring to Norway or if they're referring to Scotland, because even the traditional Norse movement into Ireland, it seems like they pepper potted across islands briefly before actually coming here. So, but yeah, anyway, so that's just a Scottish brief introduction. This is not a Scottish history channel so much, so it's just a general sort of point on them. But like I said, they move into an area where the McLaughlins already exist, and this is another variation of the spelling, and they're part of the Kenalowan, and they would be kings of Ulster for a short time before the O'Neills would almost eradicate them. You also have the McLaughlins down, who are part of the Southern O'Neill, so a group that traditionally associates itself with the Northern O'Neill, or the Northern O'Neills, shall we say, in very simplified terms. They have the Southern branch, who claim descent from Mayo Shocknall II, who was High King of Ireland before and after Brian Boru. So yeah, McBride is the McGillibridgets. They claim descent from the O'Dohertys, and they're normally associated with Inishowen, but it's also interchangeable with Kilbride. So you will find Kilbrides here as well, but you'll also find Kilbrides from Scotland. So um, you will find that both of those origin points are associated with Scotland and Ireland. So it's there's a lot of Irish and Scottish names that are interchangeable, so it kind of gets a bit confusing. Kelleher, yeah, Kelleher is they claim descent from Brian Boru's nephew, actually. So they're found in Cork, not in Clare. So, and I believe it's his nephew that he awards the Kingdom of Desmond to. But I can't remember if it's a different nephew or not. But yeah, the Kingdom of Desmond was awarded. He awarded his nephew the Kingdom of Desmond, and the Kelleher's claim descent from him. But again, I can't remember if it's the same nephew or if this is one of the families who migrated into Munster later. There was a couple of families that would migrate out in the 14th century out of Clare, as they were pushing the McCarthys again and fighting the Norman encroachments, and we had the Gaelic revival sort of happening. A lot of families would push into Cork and Kerry, and they could be one of that migration. I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment, but they either descend from that nephew who was the King of Desmond, or the later migration. But either way, they descend from the Delcos. Kelleher's, oh, there you go. There's also a branch that's Glendamanic. Well, I mean, they're not really Owenacht anyway, so they obviously only adopted, they fabricated that lineage to the Owenachter. Murphy, there's a lot of Murphys. I have a Murphy video. You have the Murphys from the Econal Gavra, who were from Limerick, and they would move to Munster, Cork, just outside Cork. So you have a branch of Murphys down here, technically related to the Murphys up here. And then Barry is Norman and Irish manically. Keep arguing with me, but there's Irish families of Barrys. They're from the O'Barra. They anglicised the name to Barry. Yes, the De Barrys are this family here. The O'Barra are these family here. There's also another branch from Donegal, right here, who anglicised the name to Barry. Stop simplifying it. You make it sound like it's so simple. It's not that simple. Our history's not that simple. So anyway, who are we talking? Oh, the Murphys. So yeah, McMurrough gets anglicised to Murphy. So they're probably the most famous. No, it's all right, man. Clay, you don't have to apologise. I know. So yeah, you have a lot of Murphy branches. I believe it means like sea battler is the terminology that's used for it. But obviously, anyone that follows any sort of Irish history knows that we have a long naval history before, during, and after the Viking Age. So the likelihood that any of them are descended from Vikings is very limited. Most are of Irish descent, but you can find Murphys in most places in Ireland, mostly coastal regions. But they descend. It's also interchangeable with the Scottish name Murray. So you sort of get Murrays who were originally Murphys, and Murphys who were originally Murrays. So there are Scottish roots for it too. It just shows the long integration between our two countries, of the modern nations that exist today. We've had a lot of backwards and forwards going back millennia. So, yeah, they're found all over Ireland. So. I do have a video that sort of points out a few of the branches. Feel free to have a look at that. O'Daly, yeah, O'Daly has a few branches again. You have an O'Daly from Donegal is one of the branches, but you obviously have, and I believe they claim descent from, you know, the Kenaloan, the Owen, no, not Owen, the Kenaloan. Too many Owens in Irish history. But there's a more famous sort of branch associated with Westmeath. We should really put them on the map because we need some more Westmeath families on here. So you get the O'Daly's and they also claim descent from the Kinlowen as well. There's also a branch from Clare, but they were like bards for the O'Loughlin's, and I should have mentioned them earlier with the McLaughlins. But anyway, they were a branch of, but I don't know if they're descended from if they're descended from the Meath family, or if they're their own branch. I'd have to look into that too, because they were known as poets all over Ireland. So I'd have to check into that one, see if they're a different family. The Ryans were originally from Leinster. I see this is the map. Vado and Display. Yeah, I'm unsure if that's actually a true origin for them, but because but there are a lot of, obviously there are Ryans Mull Ryans in Donegal. There are a lot of Ryans cutting about, but yes, the traditional narrative is that they come from, I think it's if it's the same family from Idrone, so coming from Dubgilla, the king of Idrone would have two branches, the O'Dovgall and the O'Ryans, so the O'Doyles and the O'Ryans, and they would push across and take land in Tipperary. I'm not 100% convinced on that one. I think they're two separate families, but that is to be decided with full research, and I will not stamp my name to that statement. I'm just spitballing, shall we say, but it'd be interesting to research. This is why I do this channel, because I enjoy the research and I enjoy picking apart these wee things. So yeah, and if it turns out they are related to each other, well, that's great too. Doesn't bother me where these people are from. I just like to find out. Luckily, there's nothing in it. Even if they're, I don't mind who they're related to. Dunphy, yeah, you've got O'Donoghue, McDunphy, O'Donoghue. They're all sort of interchangeable with each other. So Dunphys can be a branch of the O'Donoghues. You have Dunphys in Ushriga. Excuse me. So there's a lot of anyway, you can see McDonough as well, McDonaghy. They're all sort of so you'd have McDonoughs here, you'd have McDonaghys up here. It all comes from Donegal, the Epping Donegal, so they're all sort of interchangeable. And I wonder, again, I'm not 100% on this one, but Clan Donegal of Scotland, from which the Robertsons descend from, although modern DNA may actually be proving that they are a branch of the Kenalowen, so related to the O'Neills, not the traditional narrative of being, part of the McAlpine, 7 tribes of McAlpine. But I wonder, I don't know if they would have taken the surname Dunphy either. Does anyone know where the Ushriga are from? I don't. Actually, no, it's really interesting because the Dalburn King group that the Fitzpatricks and the O'Brennans claim descent from has very little history written that I can associate with, and I was starting to research them the other day. I wonder if what I find with it. Let's have a look. There's certainly not that much online. A lot more would have to be put into papers. A good friend of mine does a lot of research on the Fitzpatricks, and a lot of his work can be found on academia even. I'll find out what his papers are called, and then I'll let you know for next time. He's done a lot of work for the Fitzpatricks, so. But I haven't read a lot of his work yet because I haven't done my video for the Fitzpatricks. McGuinness, please. Traditionally, the McGuinnesses, again, all families will have multiple origin points, but traditionally the McGuinnesses are found from South Down. They're from I believe they're from the Echacolbo tribal group that are found in Down. So they are, I believe they're associated more with the Christney groups that would be either side of the Dalfiatuk. I've done Kelleher. They're from down here. Hang on, let's just get them on the map. Your variation of spelling is a little bit different, but they're effectively the same. The same. O'Toole has a couple of branches too. It's associated with primarily the most famous branch of the name is from Wicklow, and they're associated with the likes of the O'Byrnes, of a lot of interchanging history with the Burns. A lot of that history overlaps, but they're associated there. But you also find them in Mayo as well. It's an anglicisation of another name that was very similar. It's a variation that's used up there, but they're not related at all. And then there's another branch from Armagh. Again, not related. Are Gallagher and O'Gallagher the same family? Yes. O's, Max, you need to work on the southwest a bit. I do need to work on the southwest a bit. It's looking very bare. It's looking very neglected, and so's Meath, which is why I've been adding a few names there, and Mayo to be fair. But we're getting there. Do you remember when it was just a few families in the corner? So, sorry. Who were we talking about? Sorry, before I went off of that wee tangent there. I get a bit distracted. Sometimes you have to pull me back into it. Gallagher, yeah. So Gallagher and O's, Max, Mucks. There used to be a lot of saying that if it was Mac, it was Irish, and if it was Muck, it was Scottish, or vice versa. Depending on who told you the story. By and large, it doesn't denote heritage, although there are more. Is it Max? Max in Scotland and more Mucks in Ireland, but it could be the other way around. There are more one than the other. It doesn't actually denote heritage because, like I say, a lot of these families were putting these back on their names in the 18th century, early 19th century, sorry. They were putting these back on the name after they dropped them after the 16th century. A lot of families had dropped them, and they put them on wrong. And then we didn't, and around this time we're standardizing English as well. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't denote Scottish or Irish heritage. It can certainly help, a bit like saying, my family are Presbyterian, my family are Catholic, so, and I'm a Catholic McClory, so I must be Irish, or my Scottish, because my family are Presbyterian. It can help towards your search and point you in a direction, but it shouldn't be used as fact. There we go. Man of Clay, yeah. There, although there are other McGurks as well, but yeah, I'll put them on. That's what I mean. If you want me to put a name there, just say I'll put them on. Was it south? Oh, southwest. You said, sorry, not east. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, Gallagher and O'Gallagher are uh, are the are the what do you call it? Same name, same name. Um, in Irish history. So just if you're wondering about it, if you're unsure. Oh, and Clan William. So what? A little bit. Clan William's a little bit further up, isn't it? It's around there. That's right, isn't it? I'm not up on baronies. I know where some of them are, like Idrone and stuff like that, but baronies, you know, you can do counties, but then you start getting to baronies, it starts getting a bit harder to. And then obviously the baronies changed as well. I spend a lot of time looking at baronies from the 17th century, 18th century, and then trying to remember where they still are. Gets a bit hard. Smiley, yeah, Smiley is I think it's a Scottish name. It's like from Smalley. It's because it's mostly Smiley's sort of found in like areas like Antrim, if I remember rightly, and like, you know, North Down. It's like Smiley. It comes from Smalley, which is more of a Scottish name, and Smelly, and all the other variations. I imagine most people change their name to Smiley rather than having Smelly, but the yeah, it's I believe it's from the Smalley family of Scotland. Uh, Doherty. Young is a primarily Scottish / English, depending on what you want to sort of associate with the Border Reaver families. You know, they didn't really recognise the border; they sort of just would be flitting between to and fro. I bet so. It's a Northern English, Southern Scottish. It's its own really like cultural group within the band of um, uh, um, the border region of England and Scotland. So, but Young was one of these Reaver families anyway. So a lot of them came to Ireland again during the plantations of Ulster. So, Young. It was originally called Quirk's Country. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. There you go. If anyone's a Quirk or McGurk, Clan William in Tipperary was originally called Quirk's Country, so I didn't know that. A bit like, well, I suppose it maybe would make sense. We have the O'Keans, this was Cahan's country. Even more recent families like Joyce's, this was Joyce's country. So, Hughes, I have a video on the Hugheses. If you look for down near the bottom, Hughes, Muck Hughes, you'll see. McNaughton there's a couple of them. So you have, this is one variation of the spelling. A Clare family, and then you obviously have the Scottish McNaughtons as well. No worries. Should just be Tim. Should just be near the bottom. You'll see it's like a green and white coat of arms. Just look for Hughes, Muck Hughes, O'Hughes. You should see it. Ooh. Get near by bedtime. Can you tell? This is where I start getting a bit slower. I need caffeinated beverages. Just start injecting it into me. What about Dennehy? Yeah, Dennehy's got a few branches, but it is mostly associated with Cork. It's got a. This is a one of those ones that's pretty much a court name. Then he, I believe that's how you spell it. How you spell it? Sweeney. Thanks very much, Jaeger, for the boxing gloves. Thank you, everyone who's gifting. You don't need to gift to get your name. Ordrixia, I've seen you there. I'll get to you in a second. You don't need to gift to get your name mentioned. I will try. This is all free information. I will try and get through as many as I can. But thank you very much for supporting the channel. If you do gift, like James, Jaeger, Christine, Valerie, thank you very much. KC, Billy Bob, Peggy, I think I said James there. Michael, thank you very much. O'Grady's from County Clare, I believe. I think they're from the Efaker Anya though, not from the Dalcars. Sweeney was here. So Sweeney's an interesting one. I've got a full video on them. But in the traditional narrative, they claim descent from a prince of the Ken O'Connell, so like a branch of the same family the O'Donnells come from Anrahan, and they claim they went to Scotland, and he set up a family there. That's their traditional story. It's more than likely fabricated, but the O'Donnells believed it. They were happy with that story that the McSweeney's came from, and made them the most powerful family after the O'Donnells in Donegal. But yeah, so anyway, the traditional story, they went there. Then, but actually, the reason they came back to from Scotland to Ireland, they fled to Ireland because they sided against Robert the Bruce and lost. And they came back. Now they came to Ireland, or came back, whatever story you want to go for. And they became a Gallaglass family. They likely had been doing trips to Ireland before this briefly, because the Gallaglass had been coming over seasonal warriors since a few years before that. Yeah, they set up shop in Donegal. You'd get like a couple of famous branches like the McSweeney's of Fanad, etc. But they would actually be set up all over Ireland, because one of the forms of payment for a Gallaglass family or constable was to give them land, so you would find branches of them all over. The thing is to remember though, with McSweeney's, although the not just the McSweeney's, McSheehy's, any Gallaglass family is that, although the chiefly line, which would be the constable of these hired mercenary soldiers, the Gallaglass, would probably be, father son. They were adopting a lot of Irish people into their Gallaglass units to replenish the numbers. So I'm pretty sure that there would be some McSweeney's that would be of Irish descent from a different family, because a lot of their numbers were refilled by Irish children that they were bringing into their ranks. Yeah, close to bedtime for me, huh? Yeah. So yeah, it's that's the McSweeney's, but I do have a full history of them on my YouTube, so please check it out. Bulgars, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I literally did a video on. Were they not on it? I can't remember if they were on it. I did a TikTok video on the Bulgars. A couple of people have asked for it there. Family. I thought they might be in it. But they're originally from Wexford, so like South Leinster. If you look at my TikTok and you see the video Medical Clans, you will see I don't know if they're in it. We'll put them on here anyway. Just Bulgar and Bulgar are variations of the same name, but they are a medical clan of Leinster. Yeah, so I've done McLaughlin's and Kearney's tonight, but just quickly, McLaughlin's, you've got O'Loughlin's in Clare, Irish branch, you've got McLaughlin's in Meath, they're from another Irish branch. And you have McLaughlins of Ulster, who are an Irish branch, and then you have the McLaughlins, who are in Ulster as well, who are a Scottish branch. But I've already covered them. I try not to repeat too many of the same names, but I will. If I didn't get your name tonight, I'll get them tomorrow or the night after. Armstrong. Armstrong is primarily Scottish, but there are Irish branches of Armstrong. So the most Armstrongs will be of Scottish descent, and they are from the Border Reaver family. I believe actually most of their land was in northern England, but obviously they didn't follow the borders, so it's up. I'm not going to claim that they were English or Scottish, whatever. But they were the Reaver, culture, and they would settle in Ireland during the sort of 16th, 17th century, primarily mostly the 17th century. But the MacTrainers of Armagh also changed their name to Armstrong as well. A lot of families, when the plantations were happening, adopted more anglicised versions of their name, and the Mackie Trainer it means strong arm in Gaelic, in Esquelga, and they just basically took the Armstrong name as their own. McMahon, sorry Meg, someone else asked about McMahon too. McMahons are from, there's two famous branches of McMahons. You've got the Archellen McMahons, so they're from Monaghan, and they're associated with like they've got links to the Carols, and then you have the McMahons of Corker Baskin. They're not originally from here, they're from further up, but they're related to the O'Briens, but they would invade here in the 14th century, maybe a little bit earlier actually. But between the 12th and 14th century, they had quite an aggressive campaign into the Corker Baskin region. This part of Clare was actually inhabited by a lot of Owen Octor families, and McMahons came to dominate them. McGoldricks are from Fermanagh. This is or Golden McGoldrick. This is actually the Irish spelling of the name, but they are a branch. They're not from Fermanagh, from Cavan and Fermanagh region, but they're a branch of the O'Rourkes. They're related. They are a cadet branch of the O'Rourkes. So, got to go back on tomorrow. Cheers, bloke. No worries, Jacob. I'll see you tomorrow if you're here. Thank you very much for popping in. I can't remember if I got to your name or not. I hope I did. If I didn't, I apologise. Considine, yeah, McConsidine are from Clare. They're again another branch from Considine. Considine. So they actually, I believe their traditional story is that they descend from a relation of the O'Briens who was a priest, and he'd taken the priestly name of Constantine, and that got anglicised to Considine. So, and they're found on the coastal region of Clare, primarily. Very, very small family. But McGonagals are found in Scotland and Ireland. One branch of McGonagals in Donegal are of Irish descent, but I believe it's also a Scottish name as well. McConnon is a variation of McCannon or O'Cannon, and they were the original kings of Tyrconnell before the O'Donnells rise to power. Probably actually have a real good claim to being the oldest name in Ireland after the O'Clearys. There's a bit of a debate whether they should be the oldest surname or not, but we won't get into that today. Lynch, there's three branches really. The most famous Lynches are the Dulynches from Galway. They're the most famous branch of the family. They claim Irish descent today, but they could be of Norman descent. Maybe, probably, most likely Norman descent. But there are Irish Lynches. We have the Lynches of Antrim, sometimes anglicised to Lindsay, and we have the Lynches of Fanad in Donegal. All Lynches, if you've got the surname Lindsay, Lynch, they're from the same O'Loinsig, which is the Irish variation of the name, and it got anglicised both ways. So they're Moron. I have a video of them on my TikTok right at the top as well. Just go into it and you'll just see it right at the top there. O'Keans, I literally have the same one as well. Check out the O'Keans. The most famous branch of the O'Keans, but not the only one, are the O'Cahans. O'Keans of the Cianoctor. They're not actually from the Cianoctor. They took the title, but they're from Cianocht, all the way to Coleraine. They basically owned pretty much most of the northern counties of Ireland. We've done Dudley's today. Right. Oh, my goodness. Breslin, I've got a video on the Breslins. Primarily they were from Donegal, but they moved down to Fermanagh. But I have a full video on the Breslins. Maguires are, in their traditional narrative, are part of the Erchelan kingdoms, and they ruled Fermanagh. So yeah, hang on. Oh, I can't keep track of all these names. I wish it would slow down sometimes. Oh, I tell you. Right. Do you know what, Kat? You put that yawning face up, and every time I look at it, I want to yawn. Rogers, yeah, Rogers is it comes from, well, there's a couple of variations of it. It comes from a couple of branches. Hang on, let me just So it comes like you've got McRory, you've got McRory, which is very like McRory, which obviously there's a Scottish and Irish branches for the McRory. But it normally gets anglicised. Anywhere you'd see like McRory, it would or O'Rory, it would get anglicised to Rogers. So obviously the most famous McRorys are related to the MacDonalds and the McDowells of Argyll, descend from like Somarley, so they're like distant cousins to MacDonalds. But you also have O'Rorys from Meath. Not like North Dublin area was the branch of them. You have the McRorys from Tyrone. Do you know what? I should put these on actually. I'm going to put these ones on because there's so many branches of this one. It'll fill some of the map nicely. So anywhere you see Rory, it gets anglicised to Rogers. So like I say, you've got Rory's here. You've got McRorys of they're originally from Tyrone, but they would eventually move to Derry. As well. So that's another one to. You've got McRorys in Fermanagh as well. Most of these McRorys as well, just to let you know, were earners, so they were hereditary landholders in churches. So if you want to look at the earner video, what are like the earner clans of on my videos, that will explain some of the things. And then obviously, like I say, you've got some that are coming across as Gallowglass with the McDonalds and stuff. Hang on, we'll put these in. McRory. Yeah, that are coming across as Gallowglass from the 13th century almost. Oh no, that's got a wee. Got a wee and then you have, but just to add another mix into it, just to really, you have the Rogers obviously coming across from England during the plantations. So just to add to the mix. So yeah, that really does. Thanks Dunks, thanks Cole for the gifts. You don't need the gift, but thank you very much. Yeah, so you've got obviously English and just I know obviously people probably know this anyway, but I'm just going to put this English and Scottish. Just want to put this up here so people can see that it's not just, I know a lot of people associate with just English or just Scottish, but they were English too. Right, there we go. So there you go. That's the McRorys or Rogers, whichever one you want to go for. So yeah, there's a couple of branches he could be descended from. I think DNA will answer most of the questions, not all of it, but most of it. So whether you're associated with each branch, oh, I tell you, right, we're starting to slow right down. Loftus, yeah, Loftus, I believe is an English name. It's got like a, I don't know if it came across the Normans or if it came across later, but there's an English name, but it's also an Irish name as well. There's two sort of branches that I'm aware of at the minute. There could be more eventually. You do get the Loftuses of Meath. They actually originally from the O'Loughlin's, so it's a variation of O'Loughlin or Loughnane, depending on like your pronunciation of it. And then there are Loftuses from Mayo as well. So there are a few variations of the name. Hang on, well, someone asked for a question. So yeah, it's there's a few branches of it basically. So Scottish and Irish and English, sorry, is where I'd say. McClimmond, please, sorry for asking so much. I'm Irish, so very curious. Don't apologise. You have to ask a lot, unfortunately, because I don't see all of them. Obviously, I'm not looking at my chat when I'm talking and pointing to the map, so I miss quite a lot of, so I'm sorry if I miss your comments and you keep spamming it. It's the only way to actually guarantee that I will see it is to keep spamming it. But McDeeds are there, by the way. They're from the O'Dohertys. But yeah, McClimmon's is Scottish. It actually comes primarily. It's a variation. Although this family does claim in their traditional story to be Irish, in their traditional descent, shall we say, Hijkl. Whether they are is whether you want to believe that's origin story is another thing altogether. But McClimmon's is a variation of Lamont. So from Clan Lamont in Scotland. They were a Highland family. I believe they would have a long history, not a good history with the Campbells, but yeah, McClimmon. I'm pretty sure you would maybe find Irish variations of the name, but that's the only one I'm aware of. But yeah, my name is O'Brien. Took a DNA test, 2.5% Irish. How? Because that's not how DNA tests work. I am born here, bred here. My father was born here, bred here. My mother is English. She has no Irish heritage whatsoever, and I got like 78% Irish. So, and then my brother got like, I think he got like 62%. So that's not how it works. I have got someone to come on. You could literally have born and bred in Ireland and have those genetic markers. It's not how DNA when you go to like ancestry.com and you get autosomal testing, those percentages are pretty much rubbish. Berry is there's a couple of variations, but primarily it's a variation of Barry. You've got the de Barrys, who are a Norman family, and then you've got the Barras, who are an Irish family, who anglicised the name to Barry and Berry, and then the Donegal varies too. But the name Berry is also its own name. It's got a few points of origin, but primarily it can be associated with like Beera, berry, of like coming from Kerry. So you do get berries from there. Excuse me. And then you also have berries in Mayo as well. So yeah. Oh, hang on. This is fiction. The idea that surnames are tied to a specific place is nonsense. No, most our surnames have, not all, and obviously, so we'll use the O'Briens as an example. Most O'Briens claim descent. Now this is claim descent from Brian Boru, and obviously he was from Clare, and his family would remain. That would be their hereditary area for centuries. But obviously, we know that there were De Bryans that were coming across from during the Norman invasion, and then we have families like the Breens who would anglicise their name to O'Brien, and vice versa. Names are interchangeable. But we know that they owned land in Westmeath. We associate these areas with where our families come from. The clan system was a real thing as it existed in Ireland, and families have hereditary landholding areas that they're associated with. Obviously, you can have multiple branches that exist for a variation of the name. For example, Breen, we can see Breen here, we can see Breen in Kelly's a really good example. Kelly, English Kellys, Scottish Kellys, Evina Kellys. I don't know what your point is, because we can literally map them. Tully is I believe a Fermanagh name. It's something to do with a river. I can't remember the exact. I'm pretty sure they're associated with Fermanagh. I can't remember for the life of me. I'll have to look it up, but certainly the main family is from sure Fermanagh. Maybe I'm gonna say Fermanagh, but that's just me guessing. Yeah, Higgins there's two branches of Higgins that we know of. Higgins in Sligo and Higgins in Meath. MacLeod is a Scottish name, comes from MacLeod, I think it means like the big head or the ugly. It's a Norse associated name from the Highlands. Gorman is a few variations of Gorman. The MacGormans, most famous MacGormans, are associated with the O'Briens. I believe there were hereditary marshals for the Bryans as well. Gorman, Gormley. There's wherever you find a Gormley, you'll find Gormans. Wherever you find Gormans, you'll find Gormley. So you've got a few branches of them. And I believe obviously O'Gormorg as well is another variation of the name. You have another O'Gormans that are part of the Evina king group as well, so normally associated with County Clare. You've got the one family of MacGormans I do love, and I don't know who they're related to. I haven't checked into it, but they have one of the longest genealogies, verifiable genealogies of father to son. So they come from the Macuen Nabox, who were hereditary owners of Clonmacnoise, and they have a recorded father to son taking land from AD 610, all the way up to I think it's like the 1130s. So from 610 to 1130s, there's a continuation in the annals of father and son taking this land within Clonmacnoise, which is a very famous area in Ireland, if anyone is aware of it. But yeah, the McGormans are associated with there too. So it's they have a really they're one of the only families that you can actually verifiably, see the father to son happening in the annals for such a long period. It's nearly 600 years. No, 400. It's nearly 500 years. Sorry. Kearney. I've done Kearney. There's quite a few Kearneys. One variation of the name is like son of the Kern. So you're looking like anywhere where there would have been a Kern, you're gonna get Kearneys. But probably the most famous branch are associated with the related to the O'Hanlons, and they're not from the exact same line as the O'Hanlons, but they're from the same tribal group as the O'Hanlons, so they claim descent from the same progenitor from the Enilian. But they were also hereditary earners all over Ulster: Ards, Armagh, Monaghan, Fermanagh, and Donegal. So you do get them all over Ulster primarily, but they can be found anywhere just because their hereditary job would take them all over. Excuse me, just Lorcan, the O'Lorcan. There again. I'm not sure where all the branches are from. But there are some famous branches of the family. So we obviously know that probably the most famous branch are found in South Kerry. I believe they could be related to the not related. They were like historians for the Maddens, but I'm not 100% on that. They had a hereditary title, but I can't remember what it was. But they're definitely associated with the Maddens. I believe they were hereditary poets, maybe, or historians for. Oh, again. It's cut me off again. TikTok, I hate you. I actually hate you, TikTok. I don't like you very much. Have you been naming a lot of names of current people not liked in this infamous court case? Do you know what? I don't know what court case that is actually. Is there a famous court case? I was thinking of a rapper's court case. Is that the right one? Maybe. No, I think what happens is that you're meant to prove that you're live, but my chats cover the proof thing that tells me to prove it, so I don't see it. And for some reason my volume's not giving me the notification, so it doesn't matter. It was about that time to end the live anyway, so I'll just let other people wonder where it disappeared to until tomorrow. But it's been great having you all on here tonight, everyone. I prefer to end it on YouTube anyway. You guys are the better chat. Don't tell TikTok. But I will see you all again tomorrow, bright and early. Where we can hopefully get some more names added. So as always, Karen Reid, lots of corrupt officers with Irish names. No, not heard a single thing about that. I don't actually watch the news, if I'm honest. Even if it would make it its way across here to this country, I don't tend to watch it. I have a couple of trusted channels that friends run, and they normally give their opinions on geopolitical situations, and I tend to take their word for it because they are good friends, and we have debates about it. But this hasn't come up in mention. So, but anyway, I'll probably look into it. Anyway, sleep well, Kat. Thanks very much. Father Clay still in here. Good night. CJK, thank you very much. I missed your name as well, Kennelly. Brandon and Darlene, thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone. Till tomorrow. Take care.